Please hear me out and see past how unintelligent that sounds while I explain. For some background, we've been together for about 12 years, with a breakup in between years ago when we were young ones. For the record, I initially posted in some Dungeons & Dragons specific groups about this. But clearly this is not a game/rule issue. The feedback I've received from pretty much everyone, including my Dungeons & Dragons D&D group, is that game-wise I did nothing wrong. So here's the problem. I am the Dungeon Master, DM, and have been running a game for almost a year now with my significant other and 4 other players. My significant other's close friend, 2 friends of mine I met online, and another close friend of my significant other, who just joined as he also moved into my place. In case anyone isn't familiar, this all just means that we meet once a week with our fantasy characters. I tell a story, and they all get up to mischief. This particular game I'm running is very lore-oriented, so character backstory plays a big part. And everyone is very attached to their characters. My significant other has changed characters several times due to not getting along with other players, until finally settling with one everyone had fun with. It's a game. The point is to have fun. My significant other's character had a detailed backstory, and I said I'd love to play it out. However, it seemed impossible in game and out to get him to actually engage with the story. Not a big deal, but when I asked him, it was always, you read my sheet, you know my backstory. But he wouldn't tell me what he intended to do with this particular non-player character, NPC. I dislike players getting too attached to NPCs, and this one ended up dying. My significant other rage quit the game and has refused to talk about it since. It was weeks ago. Everything else in our relationship is fine and normal, 0 complaints there, and we are open and honest about everything as usual, except the elephant in the room, which is my weekly Dungeons & Dragons sessions. I told him I wanted him to come back and asked why he's so insistent on leaving and refusing to talk about it. He was like, "You don't want to hear it." And I said I did, so he said I took the fun out of the game. Since nobody else feels that way, including me, I asked why, and he brought up one very small detail from the last session, saying it was unfair to force him to partake in that. The thing in question was a story progression point. Think of it like an unskippable cutscene in a video game. He said it wasn't fair that I didn't allow him to alter this cutscene, and that I was singling him out because the other players really wanted to move on with the pace of the game, and I, as the DM, kept refuting all of his attempts to break this story-relevant scene. It ended up being like, why couldn't I do XYZ? And I responded, because magic. That's why. Now can we move on? He said I ruined Dungeons & Dragons for him. He doesn't want to play anymore. He was loving the campaign up until that point. He can't play with me as DM anymore because I'm specifically out to get his character, him. I ruined his hobby, etc. I responded that I was devastated that he quit, and that it felt personal because he sees how much work and passion I put into these stories, and he constantly tries to get around the rules or break the story. He got so upset he put on headphones, refused to speak to me, and slept on the couch. At this point, it's way beyond the game. In all honesty, the other players are fine with him quitting, and it's just this dark cloud hanging around when I'm trying to get back in the saddle after 2 weeks of skipping sessions to try to reason with my significant other. If we never mentioned this game again, everything would be perfectly normal and carry on as usual. However, this game is a big deal for me, the majority of my social life outside of home, and a creative passion that means a lot to me. I'm feeling miserable and skipped yet another week, handing it over to a player to do a one-shot instead, because I feel too sad and exhausted to rewrite my story around my significant other leaving like he did. So if there's anything I haven't tried, please tell me. I cannot deal with having a taboo topic, and I definitely can't deal with that dark cloud appearing when I catch up with my friends each week. I am not going to abandon my hobby because my significant other has a hang-up about it, not a chance. I am also not going to break up with him, in before Reddit demands divorce. I really just want advice here on how to proceed. If it's relevant, we are both on the autism spectrum, although my significant other is firmly in denial about his. Usually he is very understanding and accommodating regarding any autistic issues, Except now because he just keeps telling me that my special interest is ruining his day. Edit. It's been pointed out that I didn't mention that he's a relapsed alcoholic who had been sober for about 5 months before falling off the wagon and becoming a nightmare to have social interaction with. He was drunk when the Dungeons and Dragons incident went down, and his 2 best friends have confided in me privately that they absolutely hate how he is when he's drunk. He's been in varying states of sobriety when we had conversations, and I don't bring up important things when I can tell he's drunk because he gets really mean. Another note is that my housemate tells me everything, but only when I specifically ask him. For example, we recently put out some trash for council collection, and people added their own trash, including empty or mainly empty liquor bottles. My significant other gave me some cans he claimed were from that, but my housemate confirmed later that he did not see them on the trash pile, and thinks my significant other went and bought them and used the trash pile as an excuse. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Every single indication here is that he is a problem player. Why would choosing the right character be required for getting along with other players? Even if my cautious, nervous thief character disagrees with our impulsive kind of psycho-barbarian, that is in the game. Me and the guy running the barbarian get along well because our characters are not us. He is ignoring table etiquette all over the place. If he is trying to derail a major plot point or scene all the other players are in for, that tells me he is there to have fun, and isn't there to have fun by getting along with others. Those are 2 very different things, and to be good at D&D, you need to recognize and lean into the second one. The first one is fine if you're playing a single-player game, but that isn't what this is it? I gotta be honest, he isn't good at playing D&D. That's fine, but where he screwed up is not realizing that he is the problem, and instead of changing a game and dynamic, everyone else at the table is enjoying to suit himself. He needed to either relax and go along with it or bow out gracefully. That he did neither, and still doesn't understand how he messed up here. Means he needs to reflect more on it, and maybe answer some questions like, if everybody at the table except you is enjoying the game and how I run it, what do you think their responsibilities towards you are in that scenario? And just as importantly, what are your responsibilities to them? That will get you clarity on if this guy is ever going to be able to see beyond his own nose in a variety of social situations. Comment 2. I've done a fair bit of RPG stuff, and it sounds like your boyfriend has a bad case of main character syndrome. You know, in his mind, his character is the protagonist of the story you're telling, and other party members and NPCs are his supporting cast. The hyper-detailed backstory doesn't always mean they're going to be annoying like that, but it can be an early warning sign. He's very intensely invested because that's the level he's invested in, and he's blurring lines between him and his character in a way that probably makes him not that fun to play with. Out of curiosity, is he struggling with anything really big in his real life right now, as far as you know? Because a lot of people I've known who get dramatic and overly intense this way, when they're gaming, are generally looking for an emotional escape from something they're having trouble with in real life. Especially if you're saying he doesn't act like this otherwise. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking with me on this. So, the week started off with a bang, literally. My significant other, let's call him Jay, decided to throw one of his drunken tantrums, and this time, he smashed a cherished photo frame. It was a gift from my late grandmother, and seeing it shattered on the floor, well, it felt like a punch in the gut. I couldn't even look at him. The next day, Jay acted like nothing happened. He even tried to joke around, but I wasn't having it. I was still fuming about the photo frame and his drinking. I mean, how could he just pretend everything was fine? Meanwhile, my housemate, who's been a real confidant lately, dropped another news. He overheard Jay talking on the phone, sounding all chummy with someone from his past, someone he promised he'd cut ties with because they were bad news, the kind that encouraged his worst habits. I felt betrayed. Here I was trying to keep our lives on track, and he's sneaking around with influences from his darker days. I confronted Jay about the phone call. He denied it at first, but when I told him my housemate overheard, he got defensive, saying it was just a catch-up call, nothing serious. But I knew better. This was the same person who'd been a bad influence on him before. It was like he was unraveling all the progress he'd made. The D&D group met up without me again. They said they understood, but I could tell they were disappointed. I was too. It was my escape, my creative outlet, and now it was tainted by all this mess. A couple of days later, Jay's two best friends came over. They wanted to talk, and it wasn't good. They were fed up with his behavior, his drinking, and they were worried about me too. They suggested an intervention, but I hesitated. I didn't want to push Jay away, but I also couldn't keep going like this. I decided to give Jay an ultimatum: get help, or I'd have to consider what's best for me. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. He looked at me with such hurt in his eyes, and for a moment, I thought he'd agree. But instead, he stormed out, saying he needed time to think. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept going over everything in my head. Was I too harsh? Should I have been more understanding? But then I remembered the broken photo frame, the lies, the phone call, and I knew I had to stand my ground. The next day, Jay came back, sober for once. He said he'd go to a meeting, that he didn't want to lose me. I was relieved but cautious. I'd heard these promises before. Still, I wanted to believe him, so I agreed to give him another chance. But then, as if things weren't complicated enough, my housemate found a receipt. It was for a bottle of whiskey, dated the day after Jay's supposed last drink. I felt like such a fool. I'd been played and I didn't even see it coming. I should have confronted Jay right then, but I didn't. I wanted to believe his lies, to hold on to the hope that things could get better. So I tucked the receipt away and pretended I never saw it. That was my mistake, the wrong choice, and deep down, I knew it. Thanks for reading. My fiance's ex shows up after years of neglect and tries to play dad. So I fight back and win full custody. I started dating my fiancée when her son just turned 2 years old. The dad before was in and out of his life, constantly disappearing, not showing up. She had a toxic relationship with him. Big-time narcissist that never took accountability for his own actions. Playing the blame game. He totally disappeared out of their lives the moment I started dating my fiancée. My theory was, and still is, that he is still in love with her. And when I came into the picture, he disappeared altogether. Now it's been 3 years. I have now stepped fully into the dad role. He calls me daddy. I changed his diaper, took him to his first soccer game, first days of school. I've been there for him every step of the way. The biological father is now demanding to see his son, saying he's changed. My son, who's now 5, doesn't want to see him, and I promise we never bad-mouthed him. We kind of just went on with life as me as dad, and him just someone who abandoned his child to make 2 more kids with someone else. IDK if it's my place to say anything or give my input on the situation. But the fact I've been in my son's life longer than his biological father, I can't help but feel defensive. Now, I've never been in a relationship where an ex has been in the person I'm with life. I know his type, can't keep it in his pants. I trust my fiancé, but him coming over being alone for even 1 second with my fiancé makes me extremely uncomfortable and a bit angry. I'm scared one day, not now. In IDK if movies ruined it for me. But me and her get into an argument and she confides in the arms of a familiar person who used to be intimate with. She feels vulnerable. He's there. Perfect mixture for a bad situation. And he's a master manipulator narcissist. I'm scared my fiancé will fall for his tricks just like the past. How do I deal with both these issues? BTW, we are getting married in 5 months. I was planning on adopting my son legally after the wedding due to his dad disappearing for so long. But now he's trying to come back, sending gifts and $1.50 a week, 2 weeks in a row now. And I feel like my fiancé is just getting sucked right back into his hypnosis. Instead of being angry when he texts her asking about my son, she just gives him what he wants, answering all of his questions without even a thought, like if he deserves all his questions being answered. If he was around, he would have known. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You can't stop him from seeing his son. And while you've been an excellent parental figure, you also can't stop this child from knowing his biological father. If a father wants to be an active parent, even 3 years on, it would be wrong to actively try to prevent that or to view it in bad faith straight off. For your stepson's benefit, it would be better to 1, leave this to your partner, and 2, for her to attend mediation or court, to get something solid to avoid any potential flakiness from him, if your impression is correct. Unfortunately, you need to let some of the resentment go. When you are in a relationship with someone who has a child, this is part of the deal. You don't get to cut the other parent out or replace them, only supplement the love for that child. It's probably good to get this out of the way before the marriage, and to have a realistic view of the true picture of step-parenting/co-parenting. It isn't all roses, and it's almost never a case of just being a replacement mom-dad. Comment 2. You and your fiancé need to have a serious conversation about this before you actually get married. You cannot legally exclude your stepson's bio father from his life. All you can do is limit the damage that he can do to your relationship with both your wife and stepson. Let your fiancé know your concerns and work out a way to avoid potentially awkward situations. If she has not already done so, you need to get a legally binding parenting agreement in place. You should make sure that it is at least reviewed by a lawyer, even if your fiancé and her ex work out all the details. Don't let your disdain for this man derail your life by creating more conflict than necessary. But also, don't give him any openings. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, the ex, let's call him Mr. Disappearing Act, decided to pull a stunt that really got under my skin. He showed up at my son's soccer game unannounced. There he was, cheering from the sidelines like he'd been coach of the year. My fiancée was confused, but she didn't make a scene. I was boiling inside, but I kept it together for my son's sake. After the game, Mr. Disappearing Act tried to play the doting dad, handing out ice cream like he was Santa Claus. My son, bless his heart, didn't make a fuss, but stuck close to me. I could tell he was uneasy. The ex then had the nerve to ask if he could take my son out for a day, just the two of them. My fiancée looked at me, searching for approval. I wanted to say no, but the look in her eyes, I couldn't. I felt weak, desperate even, but I nodded. That day was the longest of my life. Every second ticked by like an hour. When they finally came back, my son was quiet, and the ex had this smug look on his face. He whispered something to my fiancée before leaving, something that made her smile. It was like a punch to the gut. The next few days were a blur. My fiancée started talking about how maybe it was good for our son to know his biological dad. I felt like I was losing ground, like the life I'd built was slipping through my fingers. Then, the news. Mr. Disappearing Act filed for joint custody. He claimed he had a right to be in his son's life. The court date was set, and suddenly, my upcoming wedding felt like it was on the edge of a knife. The court day was a circus. The ex had a lawyer who painted him as a changed man, a father who deserved a second chance. I sat there feeling like an outsider in my own family. When it was my turn to speak, I talked about the years I'd been there, the diapers I'd changed, the nightmares I'd soothed. But the ex's lawyer twisted my words, suggesting I was trying to erase their biological bond. In the end, the judge granted him visitation rights. It was like a slap in the face. My fiancée was torn, but she said we had to respect the law. I felt betrayed, but what could I do? I had to forgive the unforgivable for the sake of my family. The aftermath was rough. My son was confused. My fiancée was trying to keep the peace, and I was just trying to hold on. The wedding was still on, but the joy was tainted. And then, as if things couldn't get worse, my fiancé's phone buzzed one evening. It was a message from Mr. Disappearing Act, a picture of him and my fiancée from years ago, with a message that read, "Remember the good times." I saw red. I confronted her, and we had our first real fight. She cried, saying it was a mistake, and that she didn't ask for the picture. I wanted to believe her, but doubt crept in. The next day, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went to see the ex. I told him to back off, to leave us alone. He just laughed, said he was just getting started. I left feeling powerless, but then something unexpected happened. My son, this little 5-year-old with more wisdom than many adults, took my hand and told me he loved me, that I was his daddy no matter what. It was a moment of clarity. I realized that no matter what Mr. Disappearing Act did, he couldn't take away the bond I had with my son. So, I started focusing on the good. The wedding plans went ahead, and my son started calling me daddy again with confidence. The ex still gets his visitation, and it's tough every time. But we're a family, and we're getting through it together. The wedding is coming up, and I'm ready to make it official, to be the dad my son deserves, no matter what life throws at us. Thanks for reading this far. My girlfriend accuses me of cheating when I help a friend in need. So I cut her off and show her what loyalty really means. Hey Reddit, trying to solve an issue in my relationship right now. I, 25-year-old male, have a friend I've known since working together in high school, almost 10 years. We're decently close and check in every once in a while. We've grown apart a bit, but always have a good time together. Our relationship has never been remotely romantic on either side. I checked in with her a couple of months ago just to say, hey, she lives a state over. She's coming to my area for a concert soon. And her travel plans were a bit disrupted, so she asked me if she can stay at my apartment tomorrow overnight before her girlfriends arrive in the morning and they check into their hotel. Ubers here are very expensive, so it's more economical in the order of $150 approximately for her to get here because she lives a few hours away, drive, pick them up from the airport, and drive them all to the hotel. My girlfriend, 23-year-old female, is over my apartment a lot. We've been together about 3 months, and my girlfriend was probably going to sleep over tomorrow anyway. To make sure it was cool, I asked my girlfriend if it was okay with her if my friend crashed on my couch for a night until her hotel room opens up, due to some travel change timing plans. Regardless, my girlfriend would be over with me, in our bed, that night. She said it made her uncomfortable, so I just told my friend that it was a boundary for our relationship and said no. I gave it some more thought, and I would love to be able to help my friend out where possible. I usually don't make a habit of questioning boundaries, but a reasonable compromise to me was to give my friend, whom I trust very much, my keys for a night to crash on my couch, and my girlfriend and I sleep over at her apartment on the other side of town for a night, just so she can be extra comfortable. She still says it's inappropriate to uncomfortable based on the principle. I'm trying really hard here to walk a mile in her shoes, but my friend knows I have a girlfriend. I have shown my girlfriend the texts that I sent explaining that it's a boundary for our relationship, that our relationship has always been platonic. I also offered my girlfriend that we could all hang out and go out to dinner, because my friend really just asked to see if the option was open. But she respects me, my girlfriend, and our relationship, and would be glad to meet somebody who is important to me. She doesn't want to do that, and I think she may borderline be uncomfortable with me seeing my friend at all. The latest development is she's telling me she doesn't know where my loyalty lies because of how hard I'm going for my friend. From my perspective, I asked the question, made a decent compromise to respect whatever discomfort might have been there, and am not hiding anything. I don't think I'm abnormally attached or have misplaced loyalty's obligations for simply trying to find a compromise. What can I do to solve this? Update. We argued about it last night, I guess. And really at this point, she's telling me she just doesn't feel like meeting my friend at all. Part of trying to help the situation, because my friend respects our relationship, was that I just suggested we all hang out and get dinner or something. My girlfriend is telling me she's upset with me because I was supposed to remember she's not eating out this week, and she just simply doesn't want to meet my friend at all. She says they're my friends, so why should she know them? IDK, man. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You handled this 100% perfectly in being open about the situation, and your motivation to help your friend after you said no the first time shows you are a good person and care about your friends. She is having a weird insecurity somewhere, and you need to figure out what the heck it is. Otherwise, this is going to be a big problem, considering you are a good person. This sounds exhausting to deal with. You have every right to help out a friend. Comment 2. By the way, there is no version of this arrangement where my girlfriend and I are not together for the night. So she is very well aware. She is more than welcome to sleep over here with me like she does most other nights. Ideally, I would really just love for my friend to come into town, and we all three just go have a good time, man. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around. So, things got even messier. My buddy, the one who needed a place to crash, she got into a car accident on her way here. Nothing too serious, but it shook her up pretty bad. She called me all panicked, and I did what I thought was right. I told her she could stay at my place after all. I figured my girlfriend would understand, given the circumstances. I was wrong. My girlfriend lost it when she found out. She said I was choosing my friend over her, that I was breaking her trust. I tried to explain it was just about being there for someone in need, but she wouldn't have it. She stormed out, and now she's not answering my calls or texts. Meanwhile, my friend showed up, still rattled from the crash. I let her in, made up the couch for her, and tried to make her feel at home. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd messed up with my girlfriend. I didn't sleep much that night, kept turning it over in my mind. The next morning, my friend's friends arrived, and they all left for their hotel. I thought that would be the end of it, but nope. My girlfriend's best friend saw them leaving my place, and, well, you can imagine how that went. Rumors started flying. People I hadn't spoken to in years were suddenly texting me, asking if I was cheating on my girlfriend. I spent the whole day trying to put out fires, explaining the situation over and over. It was exhausting. And the worst part, my girlfriend still wasn't talking to me. I felt like I was in some bad dream, trying to scream the truth, but no sound coming out. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, my girlfriend's brother showed up at my door. He's a big guy, intimidating. He accused me of disrespecting his sister, said I had to make it right or else. I tried to explain, but he wasn't interested in listening. He told me I had one chance to fix things with my girlfriend, or he'd make sure I regretted it. I was scared, not gonna lie. I didn't know what to do. I reached out to my friend, the one who'd stayed over, and she offered to talk to my girlfriend to clear things up. But when I suggested it to my girlfriend, she said that would only make things worse. She said if I trusted her, I'd cut ties with my friend completely. I didn't want to lose my girlfriend, so I agreed. I told my friend we couldn't see each other anymore, that it was causing too much trouble in my relationship. She was hurt, said she couldn't believe I'd throw away our friendship like that. But I thought I was doing the right thing for my relationship. Now, I'm not so sure. My girlfriend's still distant, and I've lost a good friend. I keep wondering if I made the wrong choice, if there was some other way to handle it all. But what's done is done, I guess. I just hope things get better from here. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.